A lot of people have been asking me in the comments and on these streams and on different videos, what's next for this channel. Now that the lore's over, now that the story's over, what's coming next? What's this channel going to be about? Some people have been lamenting the fact that I'm not going to be talking about 21Pilots anymore. But just to clarify, I never actually said that. I am going to be talking about 21Pilots some more. But it's not going to be the sole thing that we talk about on this channel. There are some other bands, some other musicians that I find to be very interesting. People like IDK Howe, they have a bit of lore. There's another artist called Arrested Youth that I like. He doesn't have as much lore, but his music's good. And so I might do like a video on him. And then another band as well that has some lore that they're developing right now. Arrested Youth is pretty great. They're doing some cool stuff right now as well. Or he is. So that's the plan in terms of diversifying content, if you will. 21Pilots discussions are not going away. There's a lot to unpack lore-wise. There's a lot to unpack just musically and thematically in their music. Something which I haven't really been able to do as much. Ideas that I have that I've kind of had to back burner because they're not as time sensitive as some of the other kind of lore things, keeping up with everything that new that was happening and how the lore is changing. But now that the story's over and it's done and we have it, there's some other things we can kind of go back and look at related to that. I have a vision for right now what would be a 4-part series, and will probably end up being a 1 or 2-part series, on Simone Weil, or Simone Weil, Simone Weil, however you pronounce that last name. I think it's Weil. Who was the sister to Andre Weil, who was a member of the Bourbaki group, whose philosophy seems quite interesting. Might also do a deep dive into the Bourbaki group and their history and things like that. So kind of bringing in some philosophical discussions related to the music of 21Pilots as well, and that story and everything like that. And again, there's some other videos directly related to them that I wanted to discuss that just kind of got backburnered for the sake of focusing on kind of the more pressing things. So going back and talking about some of that. Then, I'm not going to say too much about this because it's very much up in the air, but it's like 75% going to happen. There's a 90% chance it's going to happen, I would say, but there's like a 50-50 chance it will happen exactly the way I'm envisioning it right now. So I don't want to, present that idea to you, given that probably what it'll end up being is somewhat different. But basically, there is a series I am developing discussing 21Pilots that will hopefully start releasing the first week of December. And it'll be kind of weekly episodes. In terms of Perligo Ponders, this is something else that people have been asking about. That series is not going to end until people stop asking questions, because it's entirely fan-driven content. So it cannot exist if people don't ask the questions that I respond to. But as long as people keep asking questions, I'm happy to talk about them. It may shift from, depending on what people are asking about, it may shift from being entirely focused on 21Pilots. There may be some more general things about music, or who knows? I don't really know. But that series is going to continue. And on that note, I'm currently working on transferring those episodes over to Spotify as well, as a podcast on Spotify, and maybe eventually some other platforms as well, just all the podcast sites. It's not up to date because I've been kind of releasing it when I have a chance, right? So it's a little behind, but eventually that will be caught up. And so then you can listen to new episodes on Spotify if you'd like, or watch the video, because some people have mentioned liking to listen, that they like to listen to the episode rather than watch it. So that'll be an option. Streaming like this will continue every Wednesday indefinitely until people stop watching and stop showing up, or until I decide to, transition to a different kind of content. I've been enjoying streaming so far. And then I'm going to continue posting a kind of pre-recorded long-form video once a week. The output's a bit higher right now because we're still kind of coming off of the breach countdown and everything like that. There's a lot still going on with 21Pilots. But when we kind of really get into the bulk of the hiatus, that's going to be the schedule there. So long-form videos probably on Mondays, streams on Wednesdays, and then highlight videos from the streams will kind of fill out some of the other days as well. So if you don't have time or interest in watching an entire live stream, you can go and watch some shorter snippets of things as well. And then the other thing that I'm going to promote a bit more heavily later on, but I do have a second channel I'm working on developing. It's pretty new. Haven't put a ton of work into it. It's very, very small. But that channel is focused on film reviews and philosophical discussions. So if you're someone who's interested in that kind of content from me, you can go check it out. Right now, there's videos coming out at least once a week. Kind of as I continue to build that up, it will probably be 2 times a week. But those are less, kind of timely or news-based content the way some of the videos on this channel are. They're a bit more like video essays and things like that. So still working on building out that channel, but that does exist for those of you who are curious. The channel is called Perligo Review, so you can go check it out if you would like. If you're not interested in that kind of content, then don't. That's totally fine. There will still be content coming to this main channel as well. And that's pretty much it for looking ahead to the hiatus. So, kind of ultimately my hope would be, as long as people are still interested, and I know I'm still interested in discussing this stuff and diving into it a bit more, my hope would be that this channel can be, at the very least, a place for fans of 21 Pilots to gather and discuss their music during the hiatus. So even as probably things will die down on social media and probably there'll be less activity from the band and from, all that kind of stuff. Those who are interested, can still come and have these conversations and talk about the band. I'm not going to stop listening to them. And I'm sure many of you are not either. And then also, as part of that, just kind of building out what are some other artists that we might like to dive into and take a look at as well. Top discussion series that'd be more in the form of podcasts or continuous videos. So there's 2. So Perligo Ponders is continuing as videos and will also be released as an audio podcast on Spotify for anyone who's interested. You don't have to go to Spotify and listen to it there, obviously, but if you like listening to it instead of watching it, that might be an easier way to listen to it than having YouTube ads pop up or whatever. So that's an option that will exist. The series I'm developing that's going to hopefully launch in December will be a video podcast. So it's going to be videos on the channel, but it will also be distributed at the same time as a podcast on Spotify and so on. So that's it. Those are the plans for Perligo for this channel over the next year at least, and then we'll kind of go from there.